We are back with another episode of Second Opinion. Today I have Nalina Murthy, who's an angel investor as well as a fellow at Hustle Fund. She looks at a lot of startups and particularly works within the health tech vertical. Nalina, thanks for joining us. Really pumped to have you on. We're going to run through a pitch deck submitted to the Second Opinion team that is a health tech focused company. Hey, Nalina.
Hey, Alex. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we're looking at a company called Med. It's an AI companion solving medical issues instantly. They highlight the problem of 38% of US patients not receiving medical help due to administrative tasks, overloading doctors, there being long wait times, and expensive care causing patients to skip their medical treatments. Their solution is an AI companion that provides instant health diagnostics to reduce wait times and decrease healthcare costs. Here's their product. It looks like an end-to-end mobile product. The why now is that AI tech is becoming readily available in medicine. There's some problems in healthcare and some decreasing patient trust that, likely can be solved by some better platforms. There's a massive opportunity. They target telehealth, which looks to be a $62 billion market opportunity. There's some competitors that have raised a good amount of money and have lots of clients, and they note how they're better than those competitors across a variety of use cases. They've got a clear go-to-market strategy, a business model that has freemium and premium features, a founder who is a PhD and has some relevant experience potentially, and some early stage traction with some pre-product subscribers and some partnerships with Brown and Oxford. And they're raising $250K in pre-seed. So that's the deck. Nalina, curious, any kind of high level notes, things that you noticed? We can go slide by slide, but let's stay high level for a few. What's your reactions to this deck?
Well, this is a fantastic problem to solve, and I'm glad that they've picked this up. Couple of things that stood out is yes, they are calling out the administrative overload, and yes, the wait times and patients not receiving timely care. So those are all great call outs, and I'm really curious to dig deeper and see how they are addressing this. What is isolating the problem that you're solving for? Are you solving for the administrative overload? Are you solving for the medical care costs, right? And that 38% US patients receiving medical help, is it only because of that, or is it a combination of both the costs and also the administrative overload? So that thing, like, I would really like to deep dive, see how much of
Definitely.
it is true. Yeah.
So what else?
Okay, this is okay, understandable. Reduce wait times. All of us want reduced wait times and decrease healthcare costs. But again, I'm having a little trouble understanding how reduced wait times will tie to the decreased healthcare costs, because again, I'm thinking what is who their ICP is. Are they looking at the family medicine, for example? You have a cold, flu, whatever, and cost tied to that because of reduced wait times, or are you looking at some specialties like oncology or something, or even emergency medical care, right, for example, which is a huge burden again on the system? So those things are not too very clear, so maybe we will see in the next few slides.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's still relatively unclear at this point whether this is something that's leaning towards solving patient problems or solving problems that are kind of inherent to the healthcare ecosystem and having that impact patient problems and thus being more of a physician slash healthcare provider focused solution. So I think I know, having gone through the deck, that this looks to be more of a patient product. But I think when you start talking about things like reducing admin tasks and, reducing costs, then, it seems like we're trying to say that we're solving for both, but not really making that whole connection clear.
To receive a doctor's decision. Now, who is this doctor? Do they already have a provider integration over there? Or is it the AI which is giving the decision out to the user or the patient at the using that app? So that's again something we'll have to see if they have information on that on these slides.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost feels like we're talking about a marketplace with a, AI powered front end, like patient onboarding experience, but the rest of the deck doesn't really highlight that. You never want to be put into a bucket in life, but I think especially when investors are looking at a lot of different types of companies, even within the health tech broad vertical, it's kind of important to just signal what bucket you're in. And if this is a marketplace first product where we're looking to onboard a bunch of users by giving them really great tools to understand their own health outcomes, but the real value is the connection to doctors.
Yeah.
I think we want to say that clearly because if that is the goal, I think that should just be a clearer takeaway. So I can put it a little bit in the box of kind of a patient matching to doctor, product versus, something else. So I think that there's just identity crisis almost
Yeah.
in what type of company this is so far, basically.
Yeah, and couple of things over there that, to add to what you were saying. One is, this is more on the, we do already have so many startups. I mean, even for example, the wearables, which are addressing the preventative health care for us. So you do already have all the integrations with AI and everything that you can, at the end of the day, you just print out that form and go to your doctor or even send it over to them. And there are so many providers who are now able to integrate, review that, and have you come in and see them. So there is one on the preventative side. So this is, from what I understand, this is not on that. And secondly, also, again, I'm really trying to understand how does filling this form, getting this information or the decision, the accuracy, who has vetted this, and do they have some sort of validation from any beta users, institutions, or any hospital providers, that yes, it is all, because especially when it comes to healthcare, right? Because we already have so many. For example, if you take about Amazon One Medical, that is already integrated for Prime users. So you get to pay per visit, online telehealth visits, etc., etc. There are already kind of so many convenience. So for me, it is also about the defensibility part of it. If it is filling this out, so this is, from what I see, this is acting as a top of the funnel. So is it a feature that any of the existing, kind of big players or even the startups, that they can kind of integrate? So what is their moat? One is, if they're talking, like I said, from their accuracy perspective, and do they have some sort of PMF or kind of reviews or attestations, to say where they stand as of today. I think that will be there. So those two kind of stand out.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's pick apart the moat. I think like if we jump over to here where they have two slides on competitors, and
Mhm.
you mentioned Amazon having a Prime product that seems somewhat competitive, and they don't mention it here, but they do mention a handful of other products that look relatively well funded across the board with a large user base. What
Right.
are your thoughts when you see something like this?
So, what are these competitors already doing, and how does Med actually differentiate, right? Like, this ties back to the defensibility part or the mode that we're talking about. So, probably kind of, need to understand a little more on what are the use cases that they are, kind of addressing versus whatever these startups are. So,
Yeah. And it looks like they're trying to do it here, but I'm curious, like, when you mention Amazon and they don't mention Amazon, does that raise any eyebrows or any red flags? Because obviously, if Amazon, I'm not super familiar with the Amazon product, but if Amazon is playing in this space, wouldn't we want to like call that out before people start realizing that, there is a pretty big elephant in the room?
yeah. Well, Amazon is not offering what these guys are doing as of now, but what how I'm seeing this as a feature built on top of whatever we have with Amazon One Medical. So
Yeah.
with all the suite of all the other integrations and products they have, so this is very easily kind of something that can be built within any team, whether it's Amazon or any other telehealth providers we have as of today, who are able to kind of provide same day, virtual consultation for us. So the wait times as of today has been cut down drastically because of these virtual visits. So if it is just one day, it's to me it is easily kind of extensible by other companies. So how exactly is Med going to kind of tackle that? And again, couple of things here. One is they mentioned why now because of AI in the healthcare sector, etc. If you see, go back, yeah,
Yeah.
this is an ever changing landscape. You see how things are changing, and with so many things around, whether how are we going to regulate AI and etc. Very recently now, I think Illinois said, okay, they are not going to allow AI based therapy. So that is how are they planning to kind of de-risk themselves to be as policy resistant as possible. So that ties back to, for me, I'm not getting a clarity. This is like a wider net they're casting. Are they kind of going to provide this to address mental health issues? So you have a form, then your AI takes in some input and it says, hey, okay, you have anxiety, you know what, okay, then we can prescribe you medication. Is that a thing? Are you kind of addressing mental health issues as well? Or like I said, are you looking at some super specialized problems, or is it everyday primary care that you're targeting? So that ICP is something that's not very clear to me. And once you have that, then probably you can think of, okay, this is a use case, but again, is that use case big enough to be a venture backable investment? So those
Yeah.
two will help me kind of tie those two things together.
100%. I think it's super well said. It's like, the health tech ecosystem and, healthcare market is one of the biggest markets in the world. And there's so many different components of it. And especially when there's well-funded competitors in the space that, you've already kind of acknowledged, the need to differentiate becomes really strong. And if, you can talk about a very specific vertical that you can build the best possible product for that very specific problem, then you start, kind of creating some credibility in your company's vision and story, starting so broad and then saying that this is, a venture backable opportunity because it's so broad, I think raises a lot of eyebrows on, especially in the healthcare market. How could you compete with some of these players if you're not hyper focused on something that they're not focused on? So I think it's a
Yeah.
really important point. The
Yeah.
things that they do call out that they're different on, I think are, when I look at this, I think it's like, I almost just have an aversion to a slide like this because I just think it's always going to be cherry picked examples. And these well funded companies do more than two things.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're just kind of calling out the five things that you do, and then that they don't do some of these things, or you say they don't do some of these things, but it just loses credibility in a pitch like this to kind of talk about competition in this way, especially if we're going as broad as we are going. So I'm curious if your questions on moat get solved here or exacerbated here.
The latter, it is exacerbated. I really think, okay, these are the things that I have as a consumer avail services, and I'm happy with certain, providers that are providing this. So I think this raises more questions to me now, actually.
So we want to talk quickly about the way they're addressing their market opportunity.
Yes, this for sure is a huge TAM that we see, and they are trying to capture a decent sized, some 1.25% share of telehealth across California. That is fantastic again. But what I am actually looking to understand more is the footnote that right below that they have. It is like 334K customers, 100 million ARR, 0.3% of 106 million. I want a little more information that is more, easily understandable to us. So where did they get that 334K customers from?
Yeah.
And okay, this is only for California. And again, goes back to so many other questions or thoughts we have discussed now, tied back to other states where telehealth is banned or not banned, or what are the kind of use cases you're solving for. So I want to see a little more. Okay, this is the market opportunity. I get it. you are using California as your beachhead market, fine, but where are you going next? I want to see more on their, GTM as well.
Yeah, 100%. Let's jump to GTM, but I think it's interesting, just given our conversation around focus, that we're a health tech company that should be scalable, but focus on a geographic region. And I think like for some reason, it could make sense, but it also kind of just feels like it's maybe not the thing to focus on. I don't really know if there's like, if in the problem we were talking about California being a place where there was some specific thing that needed solving, then it would make
Yeah.
sense to kind of start in the geographic region. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it almost just feels like kind of arbitrary that we'd focus on California. It's likely that so anyway, I think that there's something there that doesn't quite compute for me, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious if you think that that's actually the right approach for a company like this.
Yeah, no, totally agree with what you mentioned. So these are the things, again, we want more, kind of understanding of.
So let's see the go-to-market strategy and see if this clarifies anything for us.
I'm having a little bit of difficulty understanding who their ICP is. What is the problem they're trying to solve for, honestly, because this is a lot. They're trying to kind of, like I said, casting a very wider net and outreach, LinkedIn sales, navigator,
Yeah.
emails, and virality, call to action. Okay.
I think like beyond all of that, like the thing that jumps out to me is I don't know why, but like right smack dab in the center of the slide, we're talking about LinkedIn Sales Navigator,
Yep.
which is one of the last places I would imagine like a patient focused kind of consumer focused app would look to, kind of market. It just
Hmm.
doesn't feel like that's the way that I would download a health app.
Yep. Yep.
And then I agree, like the target's very confusing. It's kind of just the random assortment of providers and professionals. Maybe this is them talking about the other side of the marketplace, but again, you don't really know how important the marketplace is to
Hmm.
this. I think like if we're trying to get both sides of a marketplace, if this is a marketplace, it needs to be clear in the go-to-market strategy because you have to build up the supply and the demand
Yeah.
side of it. Slide just falls flat for both, really. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, totally. And again, this to me, it's like very clear on because us hoping that they have some sort of, they have some secret sauce as to some connections or strategic partnerships that they can leverage, which, if at all, that is the case. But other than that, this is like really falls flat from a GTM perspective for me.
so they have a quick business model slide.
Okay. Freemium and invite friends or choose one of the pricing plans. Again, a little unclear over there. What do you mean by if you need more? So free use up to a limited plan. What is it? I mean, just call it out. Maybe like 50 queries a month, and or you're having 100 queries freemium model on a shared plan, or it's like beyond that, it's like $25 per month. I think this is a little shows a little bit of you know confusion how they are kind of pricing their product.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a great slide, and it's also probably too early for this slide as a company. They're still trying to figure things out. So we have three more slides. We have a team slide here. Curious reactions to this.
This is the founder. So they just have the founder information here. Three persons: marketing, public health, iOS developer. And the founder has been a head of AI at Decarbonx, co-founder at an e-commerce brand, and published 15 plus papers in top journals. So this is very interesting, right, Alex? So this founder, Andre, so I don't know if they have health tech background or experience in the first place. I mean, why would an investor believe that they are the right person to build this solution? Or is it coming from a place of lived experience? They've, kind of gone through. themselves, the family, friends. So that's something that's not, very clear over here. And when I see this, it makes me wonder, so do they have a strong team to back them up? Sure, they are head of AI and has is a repeat founder. Those are all great, things to check off from a checkbox perspective. But who do you have? Do you have a healthcare advisor? Then put them on the slide. Do you have a co-founder? Who is the team that's standing with you to build this together? So this is something
Yeah.
that's, yeah, a little makes me wonder, what does how much can one person kind of focus on what they're building?
Yeah, me too. I think it's, yeah, I mean, you tell me because you know the space much better than me, but I would imagine that health tech, maybe even more than any other vertical or many other verticals, requires some industry knowledge and some expertise within the space and a network and all of the things that make subject matter experts important. And so I think that they bring a lot of credibility from being the head of AI, co-founding a great e-commerce brand, being published, but we don't know what types of journals, but they're missing a very key piece,
Yeah,
which I think is more important in health tech than probably any other vertical. So that I think is, I mean, I think that's a bit of a red flag and something that needs to be probably addressed in a future version of this deck.
totally. Because if you hear anyone talking in health tech space who've been here for a long time, they themselves say it's so hard to navigate our healthcare system, the policies and everything else. So that's where this one is kind of something that I would definitely flag, and it would be difficult to get past this one for me.
Yeah. Okay. And
Traction.
so they have this almost second to last slide, traction slide. What stands out?
Okay, and MVP building 70%, 50% free product subscribers. Okay, that's something nice, but I wish the slide was way up to show there is, hey, there's some sort of signals that they're getting from, their product thesis validation perspective. Wrong placement of the slide. There should be something like hero of your deck, an MVP building, so it's in progress. There seems like they're very early in the stage, fundraising, partnerships with Brown, over 100 GB of medical research data. That's great. Oxford AI model. I mean, all this is great, but again, just makes me wonder, what does 70% of MVP is done? So what can it do as of today with just 70%? That's just a number to me. So you can say it is able to diagnose like 10 issues in a matter of like 5 seconds, etc., or quantify that for me. So that's, and I don't understand what is that graph on the right side. It's too much for me. I don't want to kind of spend time on that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's the lead has been buried. So we got to the second to last slide and we're talking about partnerships with Brown and Oxford. I would imagine in the healthcare industry, partnerships with very well-known institutions
Mhm.
are important. And I think if this was a better slide and maybe the second slide, we'd be much more predisposed to take the rest of the deck more seriously. And so this is a classic example of bearing the lead. But I totally agree. Regardless, the rest is kind of confusing. Everything that you said makes sense, and that graph looks interesting, maybe, but I honestly don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And I don't know if at this point in the deck I'm interested in spending the time to
Mhm.
figure out what I'm looking at. So this is a bit of it's exciting that they have this going for them. It's just a bit of a missed opportunity, I think,
Yeah,
where it's placed in the deck.
totally.
And we get to the last slide, the ask.
So this is interesting. K pre-seed, that's again a very low number from a pre-seed perspective. So what does that unlock for them? They are looking at 12 months runway, reach 12 and a half K MRR in 6 months, equivalent to 500 customers, 150K ARR. So this, I have a couple of thoughts on this slide. Like if you see, so they're saying they're planning to reach 250K to hit 150K ARR. If you go to the competitors slide with fundraising, I think someone who has raised, it's, I think, Maya MD. They have raised 250K and their ARR or the revenue in 2023 is 2.6 million. So that makes me kind of question, if you are offering more features, more use cases than them, then what does your revenue look like in the next 3 years? Are you able to scale it like from whatever 150 to that 2.6 or even beat that, for example? And it says secure one pilot partnership with healthcare provider in 9 months. I think it's just that investors feel would like to see that hustle, and one in instead of five, instead of one in that place. 9 months is a long time, and that makes me again go back to that question. So what is your user adoption strategy or GTM? Why are we targeting, are we being aggressive about the scalability and growth factor, or is this kind of sense again not so great signals to investors, with respect to slow growth and whatnot?
Exactly. It's too early to come off unambitious. It's just, at the very least, we got through this whole deck. We want to see some some excitement, some aggressive, kind of growth strategy. I think, this is the last kind of nail in the coffin, I think, on a deck like this. But I will say, I think it's an interesting concept. And, the Brown and Oxford partnership seem quite compelling. And I
Mhm.
think that, the founder has good experience, just needs to really cover off on the important points. So there's a couple things that I think, you know, this this company could figure out and, obviously I think probably tear this pitch down and build it back up, but, could come back to market with a bit of a better story and pitch. Curious, just because I gotta ask, if this deck came across your desk as an angel investor, would you be interested in taking the meeting? Yes or no?
I think at this point it would definitely be a no. Until, like you said, if they're going to kind of tear it down and, build it back up with all the information that we just discussed. But at this point, it's going to be a no.
Yeah. And I think that's totally fair. It's competitive out there, and I think, it's important to be clear, which I feel like we lost in this deck. It was, didn't meet the threshold of clarity on ICP, on problem they're solving, on go to market. But it's, it's more, the bar is higher than just being clear. So I think, for a lot of reasons, I think that they need to get back to the drawing board on this deck and try to rethink how they communicate the vision for the company. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And even the founder product fit over there. So that one, and their
100%.
fundraise strategy, what that's going to unlock. Lots of stuff to, like you said, just go back and kind of put a pen to the paper and rethink.
Totally. Cool. Well, Nalina, thank you so much for running through this with me. I think it was really valuable to get your perspective running through this deck as somebody who looks at a lot of decks and invests in early stage startups, and particularly somebody who has experience in the med tech space to be able to look at this with a more of an expert lens. I think it's really helpful to see kind of where your mind goes as we're going through these things, and hopefully it's useful for founders who are putting their health tech decks together to know, the bar is quite high, and it requires a lot of thought and effort to create a pitch deck that would be exciting enough for you to take a look at it. So it's been really fun. Thank you so much.
This was really fun, Alex. Thank you so much again for having me here.